Well, hey there. Welcome to Real WW Talk. I'm Erin.
I'm Candice.
And I'm Rikki.
Ladies, it is good to see you. How are you doing this week?
Hi there. I'm doing great. How about you guys?
Yeah, doing good.
Living
you guys.
Living the dream, as my Gen Z coworkers would say.
I was going to say, insert something really cute. I don't know.
No.
There's some slang that I could use to describe how I'm feeling. Chilling isn't really a good one.
I know, but that makes this sound so ancient, doesn't it? Like I realize when I'm with my Gen Z, I'm like, wow, I sound.
Yeah. What's up, homies? How you doing?
But if I see one more like Instagram or TikTok person my age say something is bussin', and I'm like, no, that should not come out of your mouth.
I'm still trying to make fetch happen for those who've seen Mean Girls. Stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen.
Oh my gosh.
Don't you love that movie?
It's a great film. Great.
There's a 98% chance that it's already raining. Okay.
My favorite is I'm from New Jersey.
Well, see Mean Girls if you haven't seen it. You'll get all the laughs you need. It's so fetch. Okay, sorry.
Okay, so this week I was thinking, because it didn't touch a nerve last week, but it it's just for some food for thought when we think about setting goals for ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. We talked about like all the positive sides of setting goals and, things that we're going to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that we didn't address last week and didn't talk about that I thought would be good for us maybe to bounce around is fear around succeeding. Like, we always talk about fear of failure, right? That's a thing that can hold us back from achieving our goal because we're too scared to even start because we're already projecting on ourselves that we're going to fail. I think that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then what happens when we succeed? Have you guys ever been in this situation where you're scared of success?
Wow.
Right now, currently. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I think I dare say I have more of a fear of success than failure.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I think that with success becomes expectations from others or maybe even myself to keep succeeding.
Mm-hmm.
And when I am in a failure cycle, I feel less pressure to be great. I'm not happy. I'm not saying I'm happy when I'm in a failure, like when I feel like I'm not reaching my goals or not doing what I said, but I feel less pressure, real or imagined, from others to be great.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I've lived a lot of my life. And I don't like it. And the process of changing that is very, it requires a lot of mental strength and growth and surrender and letting go of people pleasing and a whole lot of stuff that requires therapy and
You've been going to for years.
When she's like, remember that thing we talked about from when you were 4? That's where it started. And you're like, I don't know how to deal with that right now. But I didn't realize how much until I actually got through my cancer journey. And it was successful. I didn't realize how I felt pressure to stay well, like in a weird way. Like obviously you want to continue to stay well, but it's like when you're doing so great, you feel like it has to stay that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my long-winded way of saying I totally have a fear of success, a fear of it.
I agree with you 100%, Candice. And in a different way, I think I agree in that way too. But I also think part of my fear of success is the unknown. And fear of like, well, what if I achieve everything? What if I meet my weight loss goal and I still don't achieve the things I wanted to achieve that I blame my weight on? If I blame my weight on my problems with dating, what if I still have problems with dating when I lose all my weight? And then that means there's something wrong with me. This is all, sounding like a therapy session too, things that probably should discuss.
I should bring her in next time. I'm going to be like, just come on. You have 3 misfits. We'll give you a lot of work.
Your therapist already knows us because
she really does. She probably watches on the side. Hey, girl. Yeah.
But I think it's a fear. And I think about when I first lost the weight on Weight Watchers, how scary the attention that I got was, the attention from strangers, the attention from people that I did know. I'm an introvert, and I want attention from the right person, if we're talking about dating. But I don't want random people catcalling. I don't want people at work to say something in front of, a whole staff meeting, there, and those are things that we have to deal with. People will notice things, people will say things, people, oh, you lost weight too fast, you did this. And there's a fear that comes with that of not knowing who's going to say what, when, or how people will respond. People just thinking that they can just share their opinion with you without unsolicited. So there's a bunch of fear in the unknown of how will things change? How will I feel? How will how will my life be different? I don't know.
And we know how people respond to us now with the failure. Like, it's
Right.
like, up, I've seen that look. It's like, up, she's not really going to do it. And you're like, yes, I am, but maybe not. There's in a weird way, it's a comfort.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen this story before. So
Yeah.
100%.
Well,
Yeah.
and, I think about Candice the one time you were like, I hate you for what you said. But when we were in Whitney, Candice was like, which time was that?
Yeah, there's probably a couple. I'm just trying to figure, I'm waiting to hear more.
Well, we were talking about, like, Rikki, to what you're saying is like, we train people to expect failure from us. Why would they ever think we succeed when we're training them to expect failure? Because we don't honor our choices. We don't honor our agreements. We say that we're going to do something and then we go do the complete opposite of it. So, why would they be surprised when they fail when we've just really, we've just met the standard or the platform that we set for ourselves with them. And so when they actually see us succeed, it maybe for them it's thinking, okay, hey, I want to cheer that person on. I want to be able to support them. I want them to know that I see their hard work. Sometimes, and yes, there are people who say really crappy things, but do we want to skip achieving our goals only just because Wendy is going to say something that we aren't going to like in this one moment, right? Like, should Wendy get the biggest voice right here? Or are we using that as a mask, right? As part of the fear. I will tell you, for me, it's fear of maintaining the success, because I have shown myself enough times that I do succeed, but I don't maintain that success. And so it's fear that I will fail myself in the future, that I'll have done all the work and then I'll revert back, or, slow gain back. That's where if I'm talking about a fear of success, that's where that lies for me.
I think that makes a lot of sense, but I'm playing devil's advocate here a little bit, because I think about, and maybe this just applies to my situation, what I was sharing. So maybe it doesn't apply to you, Erin, but I think about things that happened to me when I lost weight that were almost traumatic. I think I've never been a victim of any type of assault or anything like that. But there were times where I felt verbally assaulted, whether it was, even if it wasn't anything grotesque or anything, like it, in my mind, that level of attention was humiliating. And I think there's again, we're going so deep into this like therapy session. I think it almost was a trauma. And I hate to use that word loosely, and I know that there's so many different levels of trauma, things that are truly horrific that have happened to people, and not even just because they've lost weight, and like getting more attention. People can experience traumatic events at whatever size they are, whatever point in life they are. But I think there is something to say about things that people have said to us or done to us, even loved ones, even parents, that have caused a level of trauma that we are, like, again, thinking about how long I'm doing it. I'm sabotaging myself. I've been at this weight for a long time. I know I even think about, like, people must think I'm crazy for staying on Weight Watchers this long and gaining weight and trying to lose the weight that I've gained. But I think there is something to say about the level of traumas that have happened that that I've rehearsed in my head over years and have depleted my self-confidence, and I'm undoing, and that's what this process is. Before the weight is shedding, it's the undoing of all of those hurts over the years.
And I think adding to that too, you've had actual real experiences that you can recall from a time of weight loss that, resulted in unwanted attention in a way. And for me, I've had what my therapist would probably say that I am doing in terms of a correlation. I don't have real tangible evidence, but I've seen how my parents love them, for example. They can be a little extra and they know it. So I'm not saying anything they don't know if they're watching, because, if you see me, you know where I got it from. But it's, Candy lost weight. Isn't it just so great? Oh, she's lost weight. Oh my gosh, you look so much better. Oh, we were just wondering when it was going to happen. Oh, she looks. They may say it, they may not be that way. They're not always that way, but sometimes I project and kind of put out what I think is going to happen in a negative way without ever considering the positive of how it could go. Because I can pull in my memory a time where something happened in a way that was negative. I'm like, see it happen there. And what my therapist would tell me is that doesn't mean it is always going to happen that way. And you do have a voice and a way to speak up and to empower yourself if it were to happen, where you just say, if it were to make you uncomfortable, to say, hey, I appreciate your support. We could just tone it down just a little, kind of like what Jonah Hill said. And I told you all that documentary on Netflix.
Yes.
Where he said, I really don't like you all focusing on my weight. I've lost weight, but I don't want that to be the topic of conversation because it makes me uncomfortable. I don't really like that. So you are having this reaction and I have an ability to tell you how it's making me feel instead of me avoiding the weight loss to, as the way to fix it. So I think, not to say that it's a victim kind of reaction, but I think, and I'm hopeful for myself that I can try to see it for my situation, like an empowerment to figure out how to speak up and say what I need in that moment. I know that's a little tough when it's a stranger. But with family, it's still tough because even if you know them, it's like,
because then it becomes a thing.
Oh, there she is. She's sensitive about that thing. Oh, Lord, you can never say stuff because, Candy takes it to heart. And you're like, well, just saying, I don't want to talk about it every time I see you, or I don't want you to introduce me. And like, she's lost a lot of weight. Like, she lost a lot.
See, now here's the thing for me. And that's, Rikki and I are very different in how we process things, because Rikki is much more quiet. She is much more shy. I think both of us internalize messages, but I spit mine back out pretty fast. Rikki, because of her kindness, if you ever get a chance to meet Rikki in person, she's very kind and very generous. She might think it, but it won't come out of her mouth back at you. And so that's why she has friends like me who will step in front and say,
what's that mean?
You want to be clear about that, right? But that's taken me time to be able to get there, to be at a place, to be able to say, well, I'm so glad you like my body so much that you're making it such a big deal of conversation right now. I wish you would have talked about it, 5 months ago when there was more to go around. For me, that's how I work is through humor, by passing things off on humor. But yes, like Rikki. So like Rikki, where you feel that part of like that trauma side, I feel anger, because for me, it's like I have been existing in this space for so long, and now you're going to do extra things for me. Now you're going to treat me different because I've lost weight. That makes me really mad. Like when I walk through the mall and people want to rub lotion on my hands and things. Well, when I weighed 50 pounds heavier, nobody wanted to touch me. You ignore me when it's so visible when you walk down the thing and that you make eye contact, and while they're making eye contact, they turn away. Like, you will never touch me. You will never try to, like, I had one who wanted to put oil in my hair and they wanted to use one of those hair straighteners. They wanted to straighten my natural hair. I was like, step away. Don't you dare touch my hair with that thing. Right? Like, you didn't want to touch my hair when I was 50 pounds heavier. So that's where, like, for me, it comes out in like almost anger and aggression.
But does that make you want to self-sabotage, or does that make you feel?
Sometimes it depends on where I am what type of framework I'm in, because I have happened before, and it's been a while, but where I went and got food afterwards, and I had to start noticing that causation, that when that happens, it made me want to, it made me choose to self-soothe. And when I'm hurt or injured, I want to self-soothe, which I don't know, we're not therapists or anything like that, but I think that's normal that we want to comfort ourselves when we're hurt. The problem is how we choose to comfort ourselves. For me, I would choose to comfort myself automatically through food. That is second nature for me. I have to really work hard not to comfort myself with food. For some person, it might be they're going to go smoke a cigarette. Another person might be, they're going to go get a drink, right? They're all harmful. They're harmful actions. So it's, how do I let go of this? And that is the self-soothing action. Or is it replaced with a healthier option where I'm going to sit and journal, or I'm going to sit and pray, or I'm going to go for a walk, that type of a thing.
And I think that's an important part of it, is instead of processing it in a way where you're not fully processing it, you're just reliving it. I think that's where the problem comes in. And that's the type of person that I can be. I tend to not go for the journaling or something like that. I might go for prayer sometimes and things like that, but I have a hard time with just letting something go. It's just like, why did that happen? Why did that person say that? And I think of 100 different reasons why, without even telling them that I'm having that thought process. So I think that it's important to have an outlet to either learn to say, hey, I know you said this the other day. Did you mean that? This is how I interpret it. That's a really hard thing to say, and something I'm learning to say, but I have a really hard time with. I would just rather suppress it. And, I know that's not healthy. It's not.
Well, when you see how it's affected our lives, to suppress it or to not confront it, we're making tangible, we're reacting tangibly to make sure that this thing possibly doesn't happen again in the future by hurting ourselves. Like for me, it's like, I'm so afraid of what this possible thing could be, or I'm so nervous that I am self-sabotaging so that I don't have to deal with this possible thing that may or may not happen. And I never trend positive ever. Like that's the thing. Again, I keep bringing up my therapist, but that's what she said. She said, have you, and David brought it up and I didn't like it. I'm like, you all are all not therapists. Okay. Like, but they were like, I've never, ever heard you express a possible positive outcome to anything. So you always react or project or do your actions based on a possible negative outcome. And you talked about it at the beginning of my cancer journey when you said, is this a life-giving thought? I don't really have life-giving thoughts. I have, what's going to take this away? It's because that's safe for me, but it's not safe because there's true damage that I do to myself based on a hypothetical that's trended negative. And you have to give as much credence to a possible positive outcome that you do the same energy that you're giving to that negative thought. You have to give that equal energy to a positive one. And it sounds really great, but that's really difficult sometimes to implement when that's just not what you've done. So I was just wondering, we've talked about it, but what have you all found any like actionable steps that you've used to kind of get yourself out of that? Like you said, you talked about the journaling, but anything else?
So this is something that I'm working on. So I'm not going to claim it's done, but I'm noticing that I am trending better than where I was trending before. And my friend Christina shared this revelation that she heard someplace else, and it's been ruminating with me, but it was, Offense can only be given. It
Mhm.
can never be taken.
Mhm.
Or excuse me, an offense is
Mhm.
it offense can only be
Taken.
taken. It
Not
can, but not given,
Yeah.
right? And so it's how am I taking this as offense?
Mhm.
And why do I so what if it was?
So what
Mhm.
if it was?
So what if it was?
Mhm.
Why am I taking it? How is this helping me right now in this moment?
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
is this something that's giving me life right now? It is not. It is giving me death right now, and I want to kill somebody. Like, not really, but you know what I mean? Like my thoughts
Yeah.
are not good thoughts.
Mhm.
And the other piece of it for me has been forgiveness.
Mhm.
That true forgiveness is that I will not bring it up to the person again, and I will not bring it up to myself again, which means I will not rehearse the hurt in my mind. And
Mhm.
that's been the key for me is I will not rehearse the hurt in my mind when it comes specifically to what people have said to me, along the journey that can then begin to build fear into why I won't succeed. And I've learned that the more I've gone, why am I carrying this thing with me anymore? I
Mhm.
don't want to carry this with me. I think I told you guys, like, I don't know what happened when I turned 40. It was like, I realized I'm looking at 50. I don't know what that was,
Mhm.
but it was like, why, when I get to 50, I don't want to be carrying this anymore. I don't want to be doing this anymore. I've been doing this far too long. I've been carrying this burden for far too long, and I need to lay it down now.
Mhm.
I need to lay it down now. And part of laying it down now means I'm not going to rehearse the hurt in my mind anymore about this. I
Mhm.
will never get the apology that I deserve from the person that I deserve it from. And even
Mhm.
if I got the apology that I wanted from that person, will it change anything now? No,
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
won't. And so I've got to work more on forgiveness, even if it's forgiving myself for the way that I self sabotage myself for years and chose to soothe myself out of an action that was born when I was a child because I didn't know any better.
Mhm. Yeah.
I have to let that go and look at myself as who I am now and who I want to be.
Mhm.
And like we've, talked about, Rikki, I think it was you a couple podcasts ago that brought up, Atomic Habits and James Clear
Mhm.
saying we start living with intention as that person that we are intending to be and start
Mhm.
we live in that framework.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think that a big part for me is really all of what you just said, but also accepting and finding freedom in the fact that my thoughts are flawed.
Mhm.
You know,
Oh,
that sounds kind of like it doesn't make, but there's freedom in the acceptance that not every thought that comes into my mind is actually true.
mhm,
Mhm.
And so, therefore, I have a responsibility to take it captive and to always give the opposite um, possible thought to counteract it, because that was
Mhm.
something that was given to me as a homework assignment.
Mhm.
What's the thought? Know and accept and have the freedom in that your mind is flawed,
mhm,
because I think we think because we think it that it's right. Like, it came to my mind, so it has to be. No, you
Mhm.
actually have flawed thoughts. And if you don't believe it, take some time, take 30 minutes, write down some real examples where you thought something was one way and it wasn't. And those
mhm,
are for your life. So you can look and say, okay, this is actual proof that I'm not always right.
mhm,
Mhm.
I accept that freedom. Now, how could that apply to what I'm looking and thinking about now?
Mhm.
Um, I'm doing that recently has really been helpful
Mhm.
with all the different things that I've been challenged with, because it makes me want to think about, what could be the other possible alternatives that I never considered, and to stop that self-sabotage because I don't know for sure things I really thought I knew for sure.
Mhm.
So it's scary because, we're going into unknown. That's why I love what you said, Rikki, about the unknown, because the unknown is scary.
Mhm.
Um, there's comfort and familiarity of routine. We're all vying for what that homeostasis. We know what's going to happen. We know how our life is going. We know what this looks like.
Mhm.
If we could just open up in our Mariah Carey hand and let the butterfly free to just kind of evolve into what it could or could not be, how much better could we be? You know, I think she wrote that song for a reason. She wrote it just for us. Open your hand and just be free.
See, I was just, you said, talked about the unknown, and I instantly went to Frozen, into the unknown.
And I went to Mariah because, you know, she always does it best.
Right.
She does it best. You know, so that I hope that's what's been very helpful to me.
Yeah. I think that's a great point, Candice. And I think for me, it's interrupting those thoughts. And I think it's good, like you're saying, to give credence to those thoughts and say, I'm acknowledging them, but they're not true. But I think sometimes for me, if it's a negative thought, especially if it's something where I'm about to say something negative about myself to myself, I interrupt it. And I've started to interrupt those things mid-thought and say what is true. You know.
So what does that look like? Are you like, I mean, is it like a out loud? Like you're like, Rikki, stop.
Yeah. Because I mean, sometimes like if, let's say I had a day where I didn't track well or overate, and especially like if I'm in the shower at night and I'm like, I still feel the effects of that. I think that's the time where I'm reflecting. I'm like, man, that was stupid. I was stupid. And as I'm saying, nope. And even I may even be saying that in my head, but then I say, nope. I made a bad choice today. It was a choice that I'm not happy with, but thank God, you know, God willing, I have tomorrow. And, you know, this is what I can do differently. And a lot of times it is out loud, you know, and I think that's been helpful. And sometimes with things that are not that as personal, and sometimes things that are, you know, there's a core group of close friends, you know, you guys included, that I feel comfortable running thoughts by, like, hey, I think this person might be mad at me, or this person said this thing to me and it really bothered me. How would you take it? And I think sometimes having that outside lens, like you're talking about with offense, Erin, you know, would you take that the same way? Not to say that you would know what person X meant when they said that thing.
Right.
But I think having that other lens of reality and processing is really helpful to say, you know, there's a billion ways, especially if it's a text or whatever, that something could have been said and intended to be said. So I think having that close confidant to look at, you know, the same thing from a different lens is really helpful as well.
And I think also having those close confidants to help you when what you thought maybe true is. Because that's the harder part, is when you like, maybe you did have the thought and you did the thing and you thought of the positive, and it's like, no, it actually was that thing happened, and it was maybe not negative, but somebody to help you process when your thought was correct. Because that's a hard thing when you feel like your feelings validated, because then you can apply it to everything. Like, see, I told you, everybody's thinking this about me. I told you that this was going to be a thing. It's like, no, I mean, yes, for that it was. But that still is just that situation.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking about the fear and what those fearful thoughts are. And, you know, to what you were saying, Rikki, about stopping in the middle of it. I remember when I first started my WW journey, part of what I wanted to do to lose the weight was also to stop the tape that was in my mind, because the tape in my mind was very abusive. I would never have said any of that out loud, but when something would happen, I would go, you are fat. No one likes you because you are fat. You will never be able to do this because of your weight, and you are ugly. And like, I mean, just hyper things that I would never say to anybody else. And if someone said it to me, I would, you know, verbally slap you back, but then go cry in a corner because, you know, and I envisioned, I called it the merry-go-round. Like when I got on one of those things, it was this infinite merry-go-round that would never stop. And I would tell myself, oh, you need to go pull. I envisioned like a train brake or something like that, where you pull a brake. And that's what I started doing in my mind when I started on that loop. I would imagine myself pulling a brake and going, we're not on this merry-go-round anymore. it's time for me to get off this merry-go-round. And that's what I would repeat to myself over and over again of, nope, pulling the brake. I'm pulling the brake on this. And that took conscious effort. And I could even be in a 5-minute loop before it goes, hey, I need to, something would go, we need to pull the brake on that. But the more times that I did it, the better it got, the shorter that tape was running, to the point where I am now. I don't have to pull the brake anymore because those thoughts don't even enter my mind about myself. Now, if I have a situation where I've overeaten, I will go, well, don't like the way this feels now, do you? We're going to do better next time. Right? But me doing those kinds of things is it's so far and so distant from where I started. But that was that I needed to create a habit to break another habit. What is it? What did WW call it? Like the habit loop. I had to go create another habit loop to stop a different habit loop. But all that to say is that sometimes we don't feel like we can get out of it, but it is possible, even down to, like, man, when I'm having those really emotional days, it would be like, I need French fries, I need nachos, I would go out and go get fast food. I go get a Whopper with cheese. And then depending on what the day was, I would go get a Whopper with cheese and then drive to McDonald's and go get the quarter pounder with cheese meal. Right. And I would do that back to back. That was when I was what I would call my food addictive state. But it took me going, okay, I'm eating this because I'm upset. Why am I upset? What's the real root behind this? Because when I do this leads to shame. This leads to the merry-go-round. And if I don't want to be on the merry-go-round, then I need to not do this thing that's causing me then to hop on it. And it's like you start doing the backtrack of what's the cause here. And at the end of the day, 9 times out of 10, it all starts with, I've taken offense at something. I'm holding against somebody, and I'm holding it against myself. And I need to practice forgiveness. And then I need to start practicing some love towards myself and recognizing that I'm a person of worth. I'm a person of value. I give value. I am valuable, and I contribute to those around me. And I need to start seeing that side of myself. So how am I going to change this fear thought to a freedom thought? That's been the biggest fear to forgiveness to freedom for me. And I don't practice it perfectly, but it becomes more of a trigger as I go along, for sure.
And sometimes it just takes that one, just switching that socket or that light switch one time. And you don't have to stay in the loop. Like you said, how do you get out of a loop? Sometimes it's just one little.
Right.
And I really believe that, because I think sometimes we make the action have to be it has to be so huge that you have to do. Right. It's really not. Same thing with when we talk about getting back on track, and that's a whole nother conversation. We think it's this huge thing. Sometimes it's just drinking some water, or sometimes it's just going for a walk. And that's enough to kind of get you out of the mindset that you found yourself in that loop. It's just switching it.
Yep.
The 1% difference from from
I think
atomic habits.
You would have the bracelet.
When
you have a bracelet that would have a message on it to trigger. So like for me, the mental trigger was pulling a brake. Maybe, for you, it's been in the past, it's been the bracelet with a message on it to be able to look at.
How was my mind going back to that darn rubber band when you said it? I think I told you, I was thinking about someone in the meeting talked about switching, taking a rubber band and snapping themselves. You were like, why do you want to be physically hurting yourself? I was like, Erin's about to go there. She's going to say, just take the rubber band and just snap yourself.
No. I'm not going to say that, because that's harming yourself.
That's harm.
That is
harm. Whoever the Weight Watchers mentioned said that, and should be ashamed.
I am not down for harming yourself.
Neither am I. But it was I always think of her, and she was so honest about it. She was like, it's just a way to snap yourself out of it. Don't do that.
Well, that's used, I think, across addiction fields. I think people with alcoholism and drug addiction use that as a strategy as well, or even
make it up. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's used widely. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Well, ooh, this has been good. This has
Yeah.
been a deep conversation. I love it when we do that. Thank you for joining us. I hope maybe you found a little nugget out of this. Like we said, we wanted to be able to put fear on the table of what hold us back from achieving our goals. And obviously, these are deep things, and they're worth looking at in our lives. Going, why do I feel fearful about this? And in order to achieve our goals, it really means being able to sit with these things that are blocks to achieving our goals. And it's amazing how many more goals and progress we can make when we're willing to do this kind of hard examination. But the ultimate goal is to move from fear to freedom. And that's what we want for ourselves. And golly, that's what we want for you too. So hopefully you found a little bit of freedom or something that you can take to help yourself get towards freedom in the conversation that we had. All right. Well, we wish you a good week. By the way, if you want to connect with us, you can search Real WW Talk. That will take you through Facebook. We've got the YouTube stream. We have podcasting. We have the Instagram page. But you can access all of that if you Google Real WW Talk.
You'll find us.
You'll find us for sure. All right. We wish you a great week with some great feelings of freedom along with it.
Be free.
Yeah.
Be free. Isn't there a Mariah Carey song for that?
Open
Now
your hand.
I'm free. Yeah.
Bye.